maybe? Audio input, microphone. Okay, so I'm going to try to start talking again, and we'll see if this actually... Oh, yes. Thumbs up. Shar, you're the best. Thank you so much for being a deputy tech support for us here on the live stream. Wow. So one of the things that I do enjoy about being a independent content creator, whether it be podcaster or a budding video streamer or whatever we want to call this, is kind of that experimentation, you know. And when I started doing these live streams of, oh gosh, maybe about a month ago now, it started off as me wanting to kind of reclaim some of the, well, not to be indelicate about it, but the danger of doing live radio like I used to when I was on KGRG at the old college radio station. And I thought the closest thing that I could do to recapture that was do some live streaming, because, you know, when I do podcasting, obviously it's a lot of this, and most of my shows are, especially the interviews, I would consider to be live to tape. And that means that what we record is basically what the show is. You know, there's a little bit of editing I do, you know, taking out you know, like large gaps, or if there's like weird technical stuff going on, but I'm not necessarily rerouting the entire narrative of the conversation, you know, picking stuff and moving around. You get the idea. But I liked the idea of being experimental and just creating that nervous energy of having in the top corner it says live, and in another corner it says on air, and I look over at the socials and it says, "Ooh, it's live." I would be lying to you if I didn't say that I like the nerves that come with it, and it does remind me of that feeling when I was like on KGRG back in the day, where, you know, just crack up you crack a microphone and kind of hope for the best. So anyway, so we are all here now together, and I'm going to do something that might be mildly unprecedented, but those of you that hung around for 15 minutes earlier on the first crack at the live stream, I'm just going to start over. Oh man. Welcome everyone to another after hours live stream of the Mike Seibert Radio podcast, powered by Poddex. I am your host. Hope you are all safe and well. And that's really what I want to start with. Folks that might be listening from other parts of the country, other parts of the world, the West Coast has been kind of besieged by wildfire smoke. We've talked about the West Coast wildfires over the last couple weeks, sometimes in less reverent fashions than the others, especially down in California. And basically what's happened with prevailing winds and a lot of these wildfires being out of control, the smoke has finally made it up to the Pacific Northwest, here in Washington, here in Seattle, but mostly it's parts of Oregon that have been hit the hardest. So I did want to share a graphic with you before we got too terribly far, just to kind of give you a perspective of how nasty our air quality actually is. This is, let me bring this up, application window. Oh, I think I have to have my screen ready for it. I apologize. I'm still getting used to Restream here. It's a little different than Zoom was. I'm experimenting with different streaming platforms. Restream is free and Zoom is not. So I thought I would try um, different alternatives. So anyway, so more or less, much like with the audio, I'm kind of having to reteach myself live on the fly some of these functionalities. But anyway, this is Washington's air monitoring network. And as you can see, it's filled with dark purple bubbles. And if you look at the key on the left-hand side of your screen, it'll say that it's in the hazardous category, including where I'm broadcasting from right now. It's like in the low 300s, around 320. But if you look at the scale, it goes from green being good all the way up the scale to hazardous. Throughout the weekend, it was unhealthy to very unhealthy. But I remember looking at the TV news on yesterday, where they had 3 graphics. And it was kind of in this type of scale, but it was kind of like in a semicircle kind of tachometer type format, where it would show Seattle. It would be kind of like very unhealthy. It would show San Francisco. It'd be a little less very unhealthy. But then in the Portland area, it was beyond the 500 at the top of the hazardous scale. So basically the meter, the pointer was all the way at the bottom, and it was the air quality was so bad that it was actually too hazardous to measure. So incredibly poor air quality, and basically we're just kind of trying to stay inside, trying to minimize travel. On Saturday, I was working in a contained, sealed studio, and I could smell smoke coming through the ventilation system. That just to kind of give a perspective of how nasty it is. I went outside Sunday morning, and where I work is directly across from Seattle Center, and the smoke was so thick that you couldn't even see the base of the Space Needle from outside the deck. Now, a couple factors were in that. It was smoke, obviously, but also like the marine layer had come in off of the ocean. So as I had posted, I said it basically kind of smelled like beach campfire, in that, like, it has kind of like that damp humidity that you get with beach ocean air, maybe a tinge of salt to it, but then also you get very much the burnt wood smell that you get. Now, I happened to talk to Apollo over the weekend, and she had told me, it's like, man, I wish it smelled like the beach, because down here in Portland, it just smells like an ashtray. So, the only thing I could say is, obviously, stay safe, try to minimize your travel. I see people driving around needlessly, and it's like you're just gonna fill up your air filter. Try not to open the doors, and again, just try to be safe as possible until some of this stuff dissipates. Now, I'm not sure about other parts of the West Coast, but here in Seattle, we were really hoping for a storm system to come in and kind of clean some of the air, give us some much needed rain. And we had just heard earlier this afternoon that the the system that came in is weaker than the meteorologists had anticipated. So basically what that means is the conditions that we have now, we're going to be stuck with throughout the week. So that's unfortunate. But I just wanted to start with that because, I've had a couple folks reach out to me, seeing the pictures that I've been posting, my goofy selfies out on the deck at work. And yeah, no, it sucks. In fact, I can already feel that, my throat's just like a little scratchy. But it's nothing nearly as bad as folks in Oregon and the Portland area. So feel bad for those folks. Up here in Seattle, we're less not okay. Because you saw that graphic earlier. We're still in hazardous, which is a step above very unhealthy. So just to kind of give you a perspective about that. I do have some other stuff I would like to go over during the live stream tonight. Obviously, I might end up going past 9 because of the delay that we had with the technology. And again, like I mentioned before, I think I'm doing this learning curve stuff on purpose. Again, because I think I like the danger of being live. And one of the bits of advice that I've given to aspiring podcasters and other content creators is that, they're always waiting to have everything perfect before they go into it, have the show idea, have all their imaging, have everything all set. And the advice I've always given folks is like, well, if you're waiting to do all of that before you start, you're not starting, you're not doing the thing. So I think sometimes I take that philosophy too far because I think I probably could have done some more testing and experimenting with Restream to make sure that, I don't know, my microphone worked and that my levels were okay before going live. But again, I like sharing in this experience with you, and just I don't know, I appreciate showing the humanity behind content creation. It's just kind of fun. I guess it's just kind of part of my personality. I said long ago that I can do a fun show or I can do a good show. I don't know if I can do both. And I think sometimes I equate fun with some of these adventures that I have in trying to figure myself out live. But anyway, I do still have a bunch of topics, including some new toys inspired by Transformers the movie. And since it is the day before my birthday, I thought it would be appropriate to commemorate that by talking at least a little bit about my favorite movie. But first, I do want to start off with the Poddex question of the night. And I want to remind you that Mike Seibert Radio is powered by Poddex. And when you go to poddex.com and use my discount code MSRP10, that's for Mike Seibert Radio Podcast 10, you'll receive 10% off your first order. Now, tonight's question comes from now I don't have the virtual background. This actually comes up a little better. This is from the Poddex interview deck. The interview deck contains 50 unique conversation starting questions to help you take your podcast interviews to the next level and keep your audience entertained. So I am going to open up the deck of cards here. I am going to try again to give it a shuffle here. Shuffling cards right here on live radio. I love it. That one wasn't as good. Okay, so tonight, I'm going to cut the deck. I'm going to put these over here. Tonight's Poddex question of the night is: what is your most treasured possession? Still getting used to the camera. What is your most treasured possession? So that is tonight's Poddeck's question of the night. Sound off in the comments below and be part of the show. And we'll have some fun with that and pop in and out. But I want to start with toys. Now, I've talked previously about some of the struggles I've had with my collection of toys, and like what I need to, kind of more or less what I need to do with stuff while I'm still buying new stuff, pre-ordering toys that haven't come out yet, buying new toys while not really figuring out what to... Masterpiece Soundwave for you, Mike, I guess. No, not Masterpiece Soundwave. I need another thing about this restream here is now I can see that all of the comments are collated on the right side instead of me having to pop back and forth between that and Facebook, which is... I heard that. Okay, hang on just a sec. I need to change some of my streaming settings. I would say normally that this is embarrassing, but I don't think it is at all. I think it's part of the fun. I am going to go to my Facebook settings here and see if I can turn off notifications. This is going to take too long. Notifications. And okay, well, we'll try that. So I'm going to try muting notifications and we will see how that goes. Okay, so I did want to talk about toys for a few. I recently got a shipment in the mail call. I should get like a sound effect or something. It's like, hey, it's time for the mail call. I don't know. Anyway, I got a box from Sure Thing Toys, and the reason why I brought the whole package for us to check out is I've been seeing a lot of toy collectors having difficulties with shipping from Amazon and even like some of the other retailers where boxes are getting smashed, product is getting damaged, and it's become a huge problem. So I wanted to give a huge shout out to Sure Thing Toys. They sent me this very handsome, taped up, very well taped up box. And let's see what's inside. There we go. Okay, so we look inside. We've got some bubble wrap. We've got some air pockets. And within all of that, carbonized Boba Fett. He's very shiny. He's very green. He's got a super cool 40th anniversary Empire Strikes Back emblem on him. I love him. I have taken him out. I have messed with him. I'm not going to do so here because I would have to figure out how to pop the top and get him out of the card and things like that. But one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about this guy rather than just toss him on my shelf and forget about him is I've previously been what I would consider to be a quote unquote box collector. And what that means in kind of the toy collecting community is that like you buy action figures and you never open them. So I had a whole bunch of old Star Wars figures that I never opened, a whole bunch of other stuff that I never opened because I've always enjoyed packaging. I still do. A lot of the stuff that I collect is based upon the packaging. Now, what I've liked about like the recent offerings from Hasbro is that while this guy he's in a very nice, handsome box with a square bottom that I could just set over here and display him, and it's fine. But also, I can just pop the tape, take him out of the box, and then put him back in his plastic bubble, and it's fine. But yeah, I mean, I want to use this as kind of like a springboard to follow up on a conversation we were having a few weeks ago with regards to having a toy collection that might be unruly or out of control. And I would definitely say that my collection kind of fits that, because I've got this this brand new sparkly shiny Boba Fett, but I've also talked about the G.I. Joe Snake Eyes figure I got recently, which incidentally I'm going to open up Deluxe Snake Eyes tomorrow. I figured that was appropriate for my birthday. He's been sitting in the original case that I got from Hasbro Pulse, like, I don't know, 3-4 weeks ago. I just haven't had time, but I thought that would be an appropriate birthday present, but to myself. Anyway, and as well as all of the Transformers that I have. What I've noticed is that my collection is very unfocused, and I think having a focused collection kind of helps keep things organized and keep things ready to go. I've talked about the perspective of wanting more, being more important than having. So that's something I'm still kind of trying to reinvent as I kind of try to focus my collection down. But what I have found, so like, I've gone to my buddy Aaron from Autopod Decepticast for advice, because we're the same age. He has what I would consider to be a fairly extensive collection, and I've gone to him and said, okay, I need some advice because my collection is getting out of control and I'm causing problems for myself as well as domestically. And he gave me some really good advice, but the thing that I realized in getting that advice is that, wait a sec, his collection is focused primarily on masterpiece scale Transformers, whether they be Hasbro or a third party. But they're one of the greatest bits of advice that he gave me is that figure out where things go in the collection rather than, kind of like, I'm phrasing it weirdly, but basically, like the dog chasing its own tail type of thing. And I think I've done a lot of that, where I've been chasing items and not really knowing where they go. So, whereas other collectors, I think they know what they want. They know what the gaps are, whereas mine is driven by items. But anyhow, Boba Fett, super cool. And again, shout out to Sure Thing Toys for packaging it in such a way that again, he was minty fresh when I got him out of the box. So let's see, what do we want to do from here? Let's talk a little TV. Now, a handful of weeks ago, we talked about not knowing exactly what's going on with the current TV season. It's usually around this time of year. In fact, actually, we would be almost a month late with what our usual fall TV preview with myself and Dave. I talked to Dave, I don't know, maybe almost a month ago. And we decided that there really wasn't enough to talk about, with regards to what's coming up in the new TV season. So we didn't bother to do a right and proper fall TV preview episode. But Lucky and I were watching TV the other night, and we saw a commercial for something. I don't remember what it was, but she asked me, a very straightforward question. She's like, "So, hey man, are we gonna have TV this season?" Because I think with the COVID and production delays, most everything had been shut down for several months. Now production has resumed on a number of TV shows and movies and things of that nature, but while in the early stages of quarantine, folks were discovering things on streaming TV, revisiting old classics, discovering new stuff, giving things a try. I know that that's what we've been doing. We've gone through a handful of shows that we either didn't take the opportunity or, quite frankly, time to go through. So, but there was that feeling that the well is going to go dry sooner than later, and it was fine during the summer because you've got summer programming. But, Holy Moly finally ended. They finally had their kind of long delayed finale episode. And, all of those kind of summer filler shows are ending or petering out. And, you're kind of left with the question of what's going to happen in the fall. So based on Lucky's question, I did a little bit of research, and what I discovered is that let me find this here. I discovered that not only are there quite a bit of shows actually premiering, a lot of animation, a lot of new shows, and really that's the thing. If you like news, cartoons, and game shows, I think you'll be okay. If you're looking for scripted dramas, that's going to be a little thin. So, I'm going to run through this list very quickly. This is from a website called TV Insider. Fall 2020 TV schedule, your full list of network premiere dates. So it has it broken down by date. It has it broken down by day. Starting with Sunday, you got 60 Minutes on CBS. On Fox, you have all of their animated programming starting on September 27th, including The Simpsons, Bob Burgers, and Family Guy, and more. And then later on in October, ABC is going to roll out its new slate of game shows, including America's Funniest Home Videos, Supermarket Sweep, a revival of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and Card Sharks. Monday, American Ninja Warrior has already started on NBC. Dancing with the Stars just started tonight on ABC. And it's not until September 21st that we get our first scripted show that is from Fox. On September 21st, something called Filthy Rich is premiering. Apparently, it's a show that was going to be a mid-season replacement for last year, but then got put on the shelf. And then once COVID happened, they're like, hey, we've got content that's already made. Let's pull this off the shelf and use it. And you're going to see a bunch of this as we go. The Voice is coming back to Mondays on October 19th on NBC. Tuesday, they are reviving The Weakest Link. Those of you from the 90s might remember that, but Jane Lynch is going to host, and I'm kind of excited about that. I like her. Let's see. Fox has a new science fiction show called Next. I think it has to do with time travel or something like that, but that's another one of those shows that was kind of sitting on the shelf that they've decided to dust off now that they need new content. The Bachelorette is returning with a new season, as well as The Voice. You get a new season of This Is Us that has been announced for November 10th. So not anytime soon, but they've at least announced it. So that tells me that they had enough in the can prior to the COVID shutdown to at least get episodes out there. But again, it's going to be, again, reality TV competitions, game shows. You got The Masked Singer returning on Wednesday, and then something called I Can See Your Voice. And I forgot to research this before I went live here. Let me see if I can do a quick Google search here, because when I see something called I Can See Your Voice, I can't tell if it is a satire parody of American Idol, The Voice, or singing competitions, but as near as I can tell, just looking at some very brief thumbnail teaser images, it looks like it's something that they're taking very seriously. So that's kind of whatever. That's going to be on Fox on Wednesday, premiering September 23rd, right after The Masked Singer. I am very excited that The Amazing Race is coming back on Wednesday, October 14th. That was a show that I was very concerned was going to have production delays due to COVID. I know that the last season of Survivor was basically canceled or postponed for all intents and purposes because, well, Americans aren't necessarily welcome outside of the country now. So going to Fiji and bringing a large production crew isn't necessarily a great choice for the world. But ABC has some of its scripted dramas back as well. Still on Wednesday, premiering on October 21st, you have the premieres of The Goldbergs, The Connors, and Blackish. And then a week later, the premiere of American Housewife. And then, again, we're getting later in the year, but starting in November 11th, the Chicago trilogy, Med, Fire, and PD is all returning to NBC in November. On Thursday, premiering September 24th, you have Celebrity Family Feud, Press Your Luck, and Match Game, more game shows returning to ABC. Let's see, October 8th, that's a Thursday. You see the premiere of the final season of Supernatural on the CW, as well as on October 22nd, you see the premiere of Superstore on the NBC. And on November 12th, that's the premiere of Law and Order SVU on NBC. So, you kind of get the idea. Oh, and Friday, you got Dateline, NBC on September 25th. October 2nd sees the return of Undercover Boss on CBS. And October 16th is the season premiere of Shark Tank. And November 13th, that's a Friday, is the premiere of The Blacklist on NBC. So, as I said, you get the idea. So, in mid to late September, you get your reality shows and your game shows, and then the scripted dramas that I'm sure were completed production prior to COVID. You'll see those in October, mid-October, and into mid-November. Now, the last thing I wanted to read with regards to the TV stuff here, still to be scheduled in 2020. It's broken down by network, and this tells you what your huge gaps are. ABC, still to be scheduled in 2020. The Good Doctor, Stumptown, Station 19, Grey's Anatomy, A Million Little Things, and The Rookie. Over on CBS, it's basically their entire scripted lineup, including The Neighborhood, Bob Hart's Abishola, All Rise, Bull, all the flavors of NCIS, all of the flavors of FBI, SEAL Team, Young Sheldon, Mom, The Unicorn, Evil, MacGyver, Magnum PI, Blue Bloods, The Equalizer. Oh, yeah, that's right. They were doing an Equalizer reboot. I forgot about that. And SWAT. Now, I don't want to I don't want to dip into politics too terribly much, but it's a politically charged time, especially with regards to law enforcement. And I've speculated to myself, and I'll speculate here, I don't know if all these cop shows are actually going to come back. I don't know if that's entertainment that folks want. Now, I would also say that that's entertainment that some folks want. And I don't know if that speaks to a political divide thing. Like for example, we really like SWAT. It's a good show. And Lucky loves all of them NCISs and all of them FBIs and all of that. So, whether those shows are appropriate for the current political climate that we're in, I don't know. I couldn't say. For my taste, and watching TV shows as escapism, I'm all for it. But I know several other folks have spoken up and says, I'm not really in the mood for hero cop stories, or to see law enforcement portrayed as heroes. So your mileage may vary, but I would be very interested to hear what you think. So maybe you can shoot me an email or a voicemail or something, or sound off in the comments. I'd be kind of curious what you think. Do you like cop shows? Do you want cop shows? Is that something that's socially or politically relevant? I don't have the answers, unfortunately. So let's see. I did want to touch on briefly some of the stuff that we are watching, because we've, as I mentioned, we have been kind of getting into streaming TV, I think way more so than we ever did. When we first moved to the SeaTac house, we got CBS All Access. We watched Star Trek Picard, and then after that, kind of worked backwards, watched both seasons of Star Trek Discovery. And it's funny. I don't really understand kind of like far right wing conservative, or I guess quote unquote conservative Star Trek fans, because like there's been so much criticism from a vocal minority talking about like how Star Trek and Picard are so woke and whatnot. And I don't know, I've been a Star Trek fan for pretty much my entire life, and I think Star Trek was pretty much woke from day one, when you had a diverse cast and representation on the bridge of the Enterprise from day one. So to me, diversity and inclusion is kind of baked into the fabric of what Star Trek is. So when I see folks that that have criticisms of Picard and Star Trek Discovery based on those types of criteria about like, forced diversity and stuff, it's like I think those folks really need to go back and watch the original series from the 60s, and then maybe watch some of the series from the 90s where you have an African-American captain in Captain Sisko from Deep Space Nine, and you have a female captain in the form of Captain Janeway from Voyager. And yeah, I've never understood chuds in Star Trek fandom. It just does not make sense. I mean, I can kind of understand that type of whiny man-child behavior in Star Wars fandom. It's kind of what's kind of driven me away and inclined me to double down on Transformers fandom. But yeah, I just don't get it from Star Trek fandom. Anyway, where I'm going with that is we've been watching primarily CBS All Access. We have Hulu, we have Amazon, and we've got Netflix as well. But we've been kind of trying to pick those bones clean in that, I've mentioned here before that we're fans of Big Brother, and we've obviously been watching that new All-Star season, which is fine. It's been fine. I'm glad that we got a season, as opposed to not. But what I've found is that it's kind of weirdly unremarkable in that it is an all-star season, so you kind of lose some of that magic of contestants learning the game as you, the viewer, are getting to know them. So it kind of feels like an old shoe, and sometimes old shoes are fine. I've waxed philosophical about my well-worn Nike Air Monarchs plenty of times, but for some reason it's not that it's flat, it's not that it's bad, it's just not specifically exciting. That being said, in terms of like meat and potatoes and meatloaf comfort TV, it certainly fits that bill. But I bring up Big Brother because one of the things that we got into, and this was kind of in the throes of the pandemic and quarantine, not knowing what the future was going to hold for the season of Big Brother. This was before the All-Star season was announced and whether we knew that there was even going to be a show. We decided to go all the way back and watch season 1 of Big Brother. And I thought that was especially interesting because we got into Big Brother only recently. I want to say, I don't know, maybe 7, maybe 8 years ago. I would actually have to like go through like a wiki and check all of the previous seasons to figure out when we actually jumped on, but it was not specifically recently, and we were not there at the beginning. So the first season of Big Brother aired in 2000, basically the summer of 2000. And it was the same year that Survivor premiered. In fact, it premiered the fall after, or actually, no, there was a little bit of overlap. I don't have the dates in front of me. The only reason I remember that is because there's references to Survivor within the context of Big Brother, which is very weird. But we watched Survivor, but we didn't watch Big Brother. And I would recommend, if you want to see the beginnings and origins of kind of like one of the weirder, more trashier reality shows. Actually, no, it's trashy in a CBS kind of way. So it's not The Real World. It's not Road Rules. It's certainly not The Challenge or whatever that nonsense is all about. But it's risque at times. But we were curious and checked it out. It's 70 episodes. This was on 5 nights a week. And then about halfway through, once they saw how popular it was, they added a 6th night. So it's a bit of a slog. Now, I have a hack for you. And I shared this with a buddy of mine who, he and I talk about Big Brother at work. And I've been sharing with him this adventure of watching this season 1. The episodes come in 2 different flavors. There's 45-minute episodes, which were originally an hour, and then 22-minute episodes, which were originally aired as a half hour. 22-minute ones. You'll lose some stuff here and there, but a lot of the 45-minute episodes are essentially the first third of it is recaps. So if there is something like especially important it catches you up. That way, if you do it that way, the 70 episode slog isn't as daunting, because like I saw that and I was like, Lucky, I don't know about all this. How's this gonna go? But we did get through it, and I wanted to share something with you. Let me see if I can find this quickly, because I wasn't planning on sharing this or bringing it up, but now that we're talking about it, I want to, based on some folks that I see hanging out with us here on the live stream, I want to share something that I think folks might dig. Hang on. How does this work? Oh, Facebook. Why do you do this? I should be talking instead of just not talking, but oh no, I'm losing viewers. Oh no. Well, that's disappointing. I'm not going to be able to find this. Your photos? Your photos. Here we go. Okay. So, let me go back to my restream here. I'm going to share my screen. See, I'm getting quicker. All right. So, out of nowhere. Now, I guess I should set this up before I show. And again, if you follow me on Facebook, you've already seen this, but I just wanted to talk about it since we were talking about season 1 of Survivor. One of the contestants was, because it was 20 years ago, was from Seattle. And throughout the show, they showed various cutaways and reactions to this person being in the house. And they would show local TV and radio stations of the time, primarily being KISS 106.1. So I just thought, oh, well, that was, whatever the main station that they were showing. And then we get towards the end. I want to say this is like episode 59 of the 70, and we're just watching the show, minding our own business, out of nowhere, when suddenly I see I see this. This is a competition called Starvivor at the Puyallup Fair, put on by Star 101.5, the one of the other popular radio stations in town. Here's the deal with Star 101.5. I happen to know folks that happen to work there, so I thought it was very interesting I'm doing this wrong. There's radio legend Kent Phillips in a bomber jacket 2 sizes too big. This is Jen talking to a contestant, sending her on her way after she was voted out. Basically, what Starvivor is these people live in a box at the Puyallup Fair, now the Washington State Fair, and it was. It was a contest that or promotion that I knew nothing about. And so suddenly I start talking to folks at work. I was like, hey, I found this Starvivor thing while I was watching season 1 of Big Brother. This was in late September of 2000, literally 20 years ago. And to see these folks that I work with, it was just a huge trip. So I start talking about this, sharing it, and it just blew everybody away because folks had forgotten about it or put it out of their minds or whatever. But I just thought I would share that here just because it was just kind of on my mind, just a goofy thing. But if you're CBS All Access, Big Brother Season 1. The other thing I want to mention is that it is if you've ever watched Big Brother, you kind of understand the mechanics of the game. There's a head of household. There's a power veto competition. The the house guests nominate each other for eviction, vote each other out of the house until one remains. That's basically it in a nutshell. This season 1 doesn't have any of those tropes. There are literally no tropes of what is in contemporary Big Brother, and it's very weird because it's a game that's not a game. These people are just kind of living together. There's 10 people. They nominate each other for banishment every 2 weeks, and then the viewing public calls a 900 number to basically banish somebody from the Big Brother house. And so it's so violently different from what folks know now. So that was really our curiosity, is just to see it. And then starting with season 2, which I'm sure you've had this experience when you look at when you're watching something on streaming and an episode ends, it almost immediately goes into the next episode before you can react. That's kind of our experience when we watched episode 70 of Big Brother season 1. We went immediately into season 2 and got halfway through the episode before we turned it off. And it was interesting how quickly it transformed and changed into kind of the Big Brother competition that we know now. It was it changed on a dime. So regardless of how popular it was, they completely revamped the show from the ground up into what we recognize now. Now, that being said, we have picked up a couple new shows that we're watching. We've been when I was talking about Star Trek, we started watching Lower Decks, the new animated show that's kind of set in the Star Trek Next Generation era. It's good. I like it. I was afraid it was going to be a Rick and Morty knockoff, and it's got a little bit of that, but it's also got enough heart to where it understands what Star Trek is supposed to be, and it's got plenty of deep cuts references without it just being reference salad, where it's we've talked about this before, where things can get so self-referential that it we use the term fan service a lot. And, when sometimes something gets too deep into fan service, it becomes off-putting. And and from what I've seen so far, what we've watched so far of Star Trek Lower Decks, it's not that. It's the references are just right, just the right amount of reference there. Let me see. We've continued season 4 of Lucifer on Netflix, and it is interesting because we talked about this a week before, and while it is on Netflix, it doesn't seem to stray too far into what am I trying to say? The violence and language isn't to that same mature level that you would expect from a streaming show. It's more like a cable show. So they drop S words, but I don't think anybody has said F word. You do get the occasional nudity. You get to see a lot of star Tom Ellis's bare ass a lot, which for folks that are into that, that's totally fine and totally consistent within the character. I got no problem with it. In fact, I like that it's kind of thrown in there for a little bit of shock value, because it still feels like a Fox show where maybe they just swear a little more. But the violence hasn't changed, and like I said, just that little bit of nudity. It's it's been fun. We're about halfway through season 4, so we know that we have season 5 waiting for us as well. Over on Hulu, we started watching Runaways, based on the Marvel comic. That had 3 seasons. I think that's been over for a number of years, but it was something that I thought I wanted to give a day in court to, and we're 3 episodes in. It's fine. Certainly, I certainly wouldn't encourage you to stop what you're doing and go watch it, but it's a neat little show, and it does bring up a question that I'd like to ask you here. So like there's I guess kind of like the Marvel TV shows, or I guess what I could call an orphaned continuity, because like you have kind of on Hulu, you have what is it? You have Runaways, you have Cloak and Dagger, and maybe something else, but like obviously Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and a few of those other TV shows that kind of take place in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. There's references to the movies, fleeting tie-ins, things like that. And then on the other side, on Netflix, you have 3 seasons worth of Daredevil, 2 seasons of The Punisher, a couple seasons of Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, Iron Fist, and a season of Defenders, the team-up show. What I'm wondering is, for folks that haven't watched any of that, has it been too long? Like, I mean, all of the Netflix shows have been canceled. Well over a year, maybe 2. And like, I've seen parts of Daredevil, and that's all I've seen. And I remember at the time being really excited to watch those shows, but we didn't have Netflix. So it kind of came and went. Now that we do have Netflix, I kind of want to go back and watch them, or in this case, actually watch them. But if they're kind of orphans, orphan series from an orphan continuity, should I even bother? I hear Daredevil is really good. I hear that first season of Jessica Jones is really good. I've heard that Iron Fist is very not good. I've heard that Luke Cage is very okay. And so, so it's, it's definitely kind of a mixed bag. So I don't know. You tell me, should I check out the, all of those Marvel shows, even though they've long since been canceled? And really, is it more appealing to go to a show that's ended? Like, for example, when we clicked on Runaways, we saw that it was 3 seasons, and I know that it's over. That made it easier to click on, as opposed to something that has 5 seasons that's ongoing. It's hard to get into it. So, would like your thoughts on that. Let's see. So let's move on, and I am going to take this opportunity. See, I still don't know how to gracefully say, I need to drink some of my water. So I'm going to drink some of my water real quick. And then we'll continue right after this. Let's see. I thought there were more comments. No viewers on YouTube. Very good. Okay. All right, and we're back. I realized that there was a question that that Shar had asked me that I hadn't addressed when I was talking about TV. She asked me if we've watched Cobra Kai. We have not. But I did want to mention it here briefly because I do think it's interesting now that Cobra Kai, the sequel series to The Karate Kid, is now on Netflix, and folks have been discovering it. They've been binging it and have really been digging it. I'll throw that in the pile of shows that I'll get to at some point, maybe. But I think it's interesting that this was a show that started on YouTube, like YouTube Red or something like that. It was whatever their premium platform was, where basically you pay for a subscription. Actually, I don't know how YouTube Red worked. I don't care. But anyway, that's where Cobra Kai started. And at the time, the very few folks that saw it were singing its praises. So it's interesting that now, like 2 years later, folks are discovering it on Netflix and really liking it as well. But I do see some of those saltier hipsters out there saying like, oh, you like that Cobra Kai? Maybe you'll believe me when I was telling you about it 2 years ago, just to pull a random thought out there. But yeah, no, I hear it's really good. We will give it a day in court one of these days. Now, as we kind of get closer to wrapping up this evening's live stream, I kind of want to talk about everybody's favorite robots in disguise. As I said before, tomorrow is my birthday, and usually when at or around my birthday, I do something related to Transformers the movie. Now, this summer, we had the Seibfest panel, the return of the legacy of the Transformers the movie. So I'm not going to do a whole lot of elaborate content like I've done previously. And really, if I remember correctly, I'd almost have to go through my episode history. I think it's kind of like an either or. It's like I either do something at or around my birthday, or I do something around August 8th to commemorate the theatrical release of Transformers the movie back in 1986. So this is probably as close as I'm going to do to both. But before we get there, I do want to talk about virtual Transformers conventions a little bit, because not this last week, but the week before, Apollo was our guest, and we talked about a new upcoming virtual Transformers convention, which at the time was called Vo City, named after the location as well as the Transformers character from the Decepticon Justice Division. And we talked a lot about the ambitious ideas for panels, the excitement we had about bringing in other fans and having it being basically like a fan convention. As I stumbled on a tagline accidentally when I was tweeting about it, because it's basically like by fans for fans of the fans, that kind of thing. It's all fans that are putting it together, and it was originally going to be in October. No, I'm sorry, November, maybe. It doesn't matter because it's not that anymore. The Council of Worlds, of which I am a member, I'm over here annexing the Earth into the Council of Worlds, and we've decided that January would probably be a better time than November. Just one, to give us more time to plan. Basically more time to plan, more time to promote, and more opportunity and time to flesh that out. We that decision was made last week. In the time between then and now, something interesting has happened. There has been an announcement of another virtual fan convention. Let me see if I can bring this up. TFCon Online Virtual Transformers Convention from October 24th to the 25th of this year. On this image, and so far, here's the thing also. This is the only thing that TFCon has put out. This one graphic that says Virtual Transformers Convention, October 24th to the 25th, convention exclusive toys, third-party product preview, guest Q&A panels, Transformers fan panels, and Transformers artists commissions. So if you're wondering how any of that works, hey, that's a great question, and I have no answers for you. But it's interesting that, we Apollo comes on the show here on the After Hours Mike Seibert Radio live stream and announces Vo City. And, after our Council of Worlds kind of discusses it a little bit, we decide that it's more prudent to move it to January. Less than a week later, TFCon comes out and announces that they are doing a virtual convention. I'm not saying that they ripped off our idea. But it is very interesting, and I don't know what to make of this, and I'm going to spill a little bit of tea here. The folks that put together TFCon are a fine bunch of fans, and they, over the years, have become very, very good at it and very, very proficient. The TFCon shows are really great. I don't have anything bad specifically to say about that. Like, I will continue to be a patron of TFCon and a participant and things like that. I don't believe that would ever change. But the tea I want to spill here is with regards to organization and logistics. Now, you're familiar with the panel I've told you about that that friends of the show, the Autopod Decepticast, Aaron, Ryan, and Caleb, they've since done their G1 Movie Madness panel twice at TFCon. First in Chicago in 2018, and then a sequel of sorts to it at TFCon DC in 2019. I had the opportunity to be a part of the Chicago panel. I didn't go to DC. And it was a great experience. Where things get kind of interesting is that I remember even from the start, going back to, I don't know, maybe it was even as early as summer of 2018. And I should preface this, that this really isn't necessarily my story to tell. So I may be spilling tea that is not mine to spill, but I've been like a observer of these things, kind of like from the side. So it's been interesting. When you're proposing a fan created panel to TFCon, the process is slow and occasionally frustrating. At the end of the day, the thing goes off without a hitch and everybody is happy. But getting there, there's a lot of nervousness and anxiousness that goes into it, like emails that don't get answered, communication that doesn't necessarily get addressed. And again, it just leaves folks with a very nervous feeling. Like I know I spent, part of the fall of 2018 kind of trying to, um, not comfort. That's not what I'm saying, but, I'm like, you know what? It'll be okay. It'll be okay. Well, we don't know what time the panel is going to be. Yeah, that would be nice to know, wouldn't it? Well, we don't know what day it is, and I think for something that the guys spent conservatively a couple months preparing and put together, I think it was maybe like the week of the show that they learned the time that their panel was going to be and the day it was going to be. Which can be very frustrating and very nerve-wracking when you're trying to plan your content. So the thing that I've mentioned, I just realized that my screen is still shared here, but so let's break this down. So convention exclusive toys. TFCon has standing deals with several third-party vendors, and even with what was it? With TFCon Orlando that was canceled early in the spring, they still had the toys that were ready for that convention that basically the vendor still sold as quote unquote TFCon exclusives. So this doesn't surprise me. They probably had toys that were already prepared to be sold as TFCon exclusives. So that's fine. Third-party product review. That I was actually a guest on Autopod Decepticast. What was it? It must have been last fall. No, not last fall. Last spring. Around the same time. Duh. I'm getting rummy. Where basically they had prepared the third-party panel slideshow and reveal for the convention for TFCon Orlando, and then the convention got canceled due to COVID. But they had the material already ready, so actually TFCon's first foray into live streaming content actually dates back to February or March, whenever it was. And they basically ran the slideshow / video of what would have been the third party panel. They just did it as a live stream. And I was a guest on Autopod Decepticast and talked to Aaron about what I thought. It's fine. So I would imagine that this is the same thing. Guest Q&A panels. I would imagine that these are going to be some kind of streaming panels with either celebrity voice actors or other creators. Other notable creators, meaning like folks that either have, are, or will be working on the comic books, whether they be the old Marvel comics or the current IDW comics, or other notable creators, again, voice actors, things like that. This is where the next item down, the Transformers fan panels, that's what kind of has me concerned, or things that I want to talk about and spill the tea about. The folks at TFCon have always been kind of weird with regards to fan panels, and it has. I've talked to a number of folks aside from the people that I just mentioned, have had incredible amounts of frustration with dealing with TFCon with regards to their fan panels. And I don't know why that is. I being devil's advocate, these folks are fans just like us. Maybe they get bogged down. Maybe there just isn't enough time in the day. There aren't enough hours in the day. I can appreciate that, but it is incredibly difficult for folks on the other side that are looking to present content in a panel format. As I said, my friends took months to prepare their Transformers the movie panel for TFCon. So I how do I want to put this? Well, basically, what I want to share is some correspondence between somebody that was interested in submitting a fan panel and TFCon. So they responded to one of these various posts. It's been all over Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, advertising this TFCon online, and folks asking how they could submit for fan panels. Where can we find info about the fan panels? How do we sign up to host? Send an email to info@tfcon.com. Makes sense, right? So within an email, I was told to send an email in regards to fan panels for the online event. I'd like to know more about them if that's all right. I'd also like to know how to apply and what info would be needed. The convention responds, you can email your pitch right here. Thanks. It's not very helpful. To which there's the fan responds, thank you. I've gathered that part so far. I was hoping to get more information on what sort of panels the con might be looking for. For example, toy reviews, interactive panels such as games with the audience, educational panels such as how to cosplay or design a comic, etc. Information would be important in regards to organizing one, such as what time, duration a panel should be kept within, where it would be hosted for the online event, whether or not live streaming, Twitch streaming is a requirement, etc. I appreciate your response in advance and look forward to seeing what me and my teammates could offer. There has been no response to that email. And that's kind of par for the course with TFCon. Now, there's speculation that perhaps the TFCon is just looking to amass various fan pitches, and then they will go through and pick the ones that they like. Which, if you are going to the community, soliciting content, fan panels, I don't know if that's the appropriate way to do it. Like, oh, we'll take all of your ideas and then we'll go through them and decide what we want to put up. It makes me look at the experience that my buddies had in a different light, in that perhaps they were part of like this review process where they're like, well, I mean, we need something to put on Sunday at 4 p.m. So maybe we could put on this movie madness or whatever. I don't know if that's the best way to do that. Maybe I'm coming at it from a different angle, given my mostly positive experience with Cybfest Northwest. Basically, they were like, we need content. I want to do content. Great. Let us know what you're doing. It wasn't necessarily like asking for permission. It was kind of like, I am interested in contributing this content. Now, I suppose if the show organizers of Cybfest didn't want my specific, the return of the legacy of the Transformers the movie panel, or if there were difficulties with the guests, because I gave them everything. I'm like, this is everybody that I've invited. This is basically what the panel is going to be. If there was issues, they had the opportunity to let me know about that. So I don't know what the best approach is. Where I guess I'm going with that in a roundabout kind of way is that as a fan, it makes me not want to submit content to TFCon on the chance that maybe I'll have the opportunity to present it. I don't know if I'm looking at that correctly or not. Maybe I've got too much smoke inhalation. I'm not sure, but I kind of bring that up because like some of the conversations that we have had amongst ourselves with regards to this this new online fan convention that we are now calling IACon. Obviously named after the city in Transformers of the same name on Cybertron. That'll be happening January 30th through the 31st of 2021 after the calendar rolls over and we get a new year. So hopefully that'll be better for us. But there's been discussions amongst ourselves about how we want to approach and solicit fan content. And more or less, we want to present an environment that is inclusive and welcoming. And I think the main thing, because I mean, we had a lot of discussions about whether we're competing with TFCon or whatever. I don't want to litigate that, and I've probably already spilt too much tea as it is. I hope I don't get in trouble with my friends. But the thing that I want to say is that like we're making a commitment to the fans that want to participate and hang out with us, that we're not going to leave you hanging. So if that's construed as kind of positioning us against TFCon, then I'm sorry for that, but it's just, I don't know. It was just something that's especially frustrating, and I'm very interested and curious to see what TFCon actually does and how that may or may not influence what we do. Because there's, for anybody that listens to more than one Transformers podcast, there is many different ways of presenting the same material. Like I am currently listening to 2 different podcasts that are literally covering the same episodes of the G1 cartoon, Autopod Decepticast and More Than Meets the Pod. And fans of those shows will tell you that they are vastly different with vastly different viewpoints, and the material presented is very different, even though they're talking about literally the same episodes of the cartoon. So that's what, in my mind, what the mission of IACon is going to be, is that, it's a fan convention by the fans, for the fans, of the fans. And, we're really going to give a serious go of it and, try to be as inclusive and representative as possible. And I think really kind of waving that flag proudly. So I would be very interested to see what you think, especially in the wake of DC Fandom, San Diego Comic-Con at home, TF Nation, their live stream, and to a much lesser extent, Cybfest Northwest. I think since we know we're not going to get actual conventions anytime soon, I think that virtual conventions are something that we're going to be that are going to be part of the scene for a while. And I think there's enough bandwidth and material for everybody. So let me see. What's funny, I've gotten all this way and I forgot to talk about the Transformers the movie stuff that I wanted to mention earlier. So, but before we get into that, and before we close out, I would like to close things out with some shout outs. That's way too loud. That was very loud. I'll try hitting this again at lower throttle. Again, I'm still experimenting here. Couple quick shout outs I want to mention. Excuse me. A couple quick shout outs. First of all, in case you missed it, my most current episode of the podcast was episode number 290 and featured my interview with my mentor, Charlie Harger, talking about his podcasting class at Green River College. I just want to remind you that fall session starts. Want to remind you that fall session starts on September 21st. So that's still a week from tonight. So still plenty of opportunity to go check out greenriver.edu and register for that basically on-demand podcasting class, and go check out the podcast. That was a ton of fun. I try to talk to Charlie at least once a year. He is the guy that, was one of the first ones to teach me about podcasting. So in a lot of ways, if you hung around with us on the live stream for this long, you have him to blame for fostering my burgeoning interest in wanting to do this format. I also want to talk about, a couple projects from friends of mine. The new issue of Transformers Reanimated, the fan fiction project from Greg and Yoshi, is out. I have it here somewhere. I told myself that I was going to have all of this available before I went live, and I forgot. Let's see. So the new issue of Transformers Reanimated is now available. It's issue number 14. It's titled "A Swarm of Bumblebees." The cover was done by Dan Hanna, who's a old school Transformers artist, and it's got a ton of Bumblebee on there. So I am looking forward to our eventual script reading podcast where we a handful of us get together. It's Greg and Yoshi and myself and Alpha Magnus and James Fisher and the APDC gang, and we read these scripts out loud. And for those of you that have been listening to those podcasts, I have been Bumblebee has been one of my primary roles, along with Chip Chase and a couple others. But I see a lot of Bumblebee on the cover, so that makes me incredibly excited. So head over to transformersreanimated.com and check that out. It is totally for free. And if you go back through my episode feeds, you'll hear more of the history about the Transformers Reanimated project and where it started and where it's going. And, these guys have been at it for just over a year now and with no end in sight, and they seem to be having a lot of fun with it. So huge shout out and congratulations to those guys. Speaking of Greg, our friend from Down Under, from Australia, he was also on this most recent episode of Autopod Decepticast talking about fan favorite episode Dinobot Island. Now, the episode came out on Sunday, and I've just now started on it. It's but one of the things I did want to point out, for folks that may not have listened before, my dude Aaron does, how shall we say, elaborate intros to the podcasts, usually telling pop culture stories, kind of reframed with the podcast hosts as guests, and this time in honor of Greg being from Australia, Aaron went through and did a very AC/DC themed intro. I don't want to spoil it any further than that, but I've talked about this before, but I'm a lifelong AC/DC fan. I know all the songs sound the same, which is fine because all the songs are awesome. So I've been a fan of AC/DC since I was 8 years old. So yeah, it's always had a very special place for me. So it was weirdly selfish. This is how my dumb, selfish brain works sometimes, is I felt like and I get a shout out in the intro as well. I've somehow been drawn into this lore of theirs, but no, I know they recorded it many, many weeks ago, but I listened to it this morning on my way to work, the day before my birthday, and I can't help but feel that was, kind of for me in a weird way, even though it totally wasn't, and was more aimed at Greg, the actual dude from actual Australia. But anyway, that's if nothing else, check out the intro of this week's Autopod Decepticast and stick around for Greg talking about one of his favorite episodes of the Transformers, the season 2-parter, Dinobot Island. It's a ton of fun, and as we kind of transition to in closing out with talk about Transformers the movie, I want to let you know about I can't speak anymore. It tells me that it's kind of time to pack it up soon. There it is. I have too many screens. So as we close out and get ready to talk about Transformers the movie, I want to let you know about a podcast I have coming up with a podcaster named Rafe Telsch. He is the host of a podcast called Have Not Seen This. And it's basically a movie podcast where he invites guests to come on and bring in kind of seldomly seen movies and talk about them. I got connected with him on a Facebook group, and he was just, soliciting guests, and I hit him up, and I'm like, well, I don't know if this is something that's on your radar, but I have a certain animated classic from 1986 that I can talk about. And he wrote me back almost immediately, sounded very excited. And he's like, I was not a Transformers kid growing up, so I'm really excited to get that perspective. And we are actually going to record next Monday night, the 21st. So I guess you heard it here first. There will be no after hours live stream on Monday the 21st because I will be recording with Rafe Telsch, and we will be talking about Transformers the movie on his podcast. Have Not Seen This. So I'm really excited for that opportunity because I've been talking about Transformers the movie with a lot of folks for a long time, but it feels that more recently it's gotten, for lack of a better term, kind of echo chambery. Like, I've done a couple different panels at a couple different conventions, and I've contributed content to friends' podcasts. If I've been invited to contribute several times to Transformers University. I've been on Autopod Decepticast several times. But anyway, I've spent a lot of the last 2 years talking about this movie with friends as opposed to making new friends and talking about it. It kind of reminds me of how I used to talk about the movie 5 years ago when I would leave voicemails for BJ Shea's Geek Nation talking about how Transformers the movie is better than whichever live action movie happened to be out. I was like, yeah, imagine you're watching Star Wars and that at the end of the Death Star run, the Death Star suddenly turns around and changes into a giant robot and starts swatting away X-wing fighters. That's kind of the scale of this movie. Oh, by the way, you can watch Transformers the movie 3 times in the amount of time it takes to watch any of the Michael Bay movies, and you don't have to worry about cringe-worthy scenes discussing age of consent laws. Anyway, so I've been evangelical about Transformers the movie for like I said, like the last 5 years or so. So I'll be excited to talk to somebody that runs a movie podcast that's not part of the Transformers fandom to just kind of bring my perspective on that. So I'm really excited for that and just kind of be on the lookout. So to close out, I want to talk about, let me see if I have my tabs ready. I want to talk about toys. I want to talk about leaks. And I think I'm just going to, no, hang on. Okay, there we go. There are some toys coming from Hasbro that are basically inspired by Transformers the movie. Toys that I don't know if in my lifetime I ever thought I would see. And I think coming first is a set inspired by one of my favorite scenes in the movie, and I'm going to see if I end up in YouTube jail by running a clip and kind of setting the scene here. That's terrible. Anyway, so the Quintesson Pit of Judgment set is coming, and the reason why I want to share that now is because not because it's a new toy that's been how do I want to phrase that? This was announced back in July, but basically, like, you saw the clip I just played you. In this action figure set, it's a 5-piece set. You have the Quintesson Judge with all 5 rotating faces. Man, I would love an audio clip where you just get like the laughing or something. You get the Quintesson Prosecutor, who you heard, a little Sharkticon to go in the pit, and I don't want to necessarily be nitpicky about it, but the other figure you get is the Quintesson Bailiff, who was not in that scene. You get a Quintesson executioner instead. But anyway, I don't want to nitpick about it because that bailiff figure looks really, really cool. And then, of course, you get a tiny slug figure of Kranix who just wants to be spared that mockery of justice. Now, so this has been on my radar since like July, me saying like, oh man, I want to get this. We have learned now that set is going to be available exclusively through Hasbro Pulse. That is going to be part of their, I guess, what are we calling it? We're calling PulseCon. I don't know. Let me double check here. Hasbro Pulse. Yeah, let me see here. PulseCon, September 25th through 26th. So that's what the word on the street is when this Quintesson Pit of Judgment set will be available. Now, again, the reason why I'm so excited about this set, and I know we talked way back at the beginning of the show about having collections of random stuff. I'm learning in that I've already said that I want this, but in that time, I've been figuring out where I would like to put it and where I would like it displayed. Something that's new for me as opposed to just buying stuff and not knowing where to put it. The reason why I want this is because, I guess I'm saying it backwards. It's an action figure representation of one of my favorite scenes from my favorite movie. Figures that I never thought I was going to see. And even the thing that kind of warmed my heart the most, and it sounds very silly to say out loud, but on the back of the package art that you can see here on the screen, look at this gorgeous painted art. But in the bottom corner, it says inspired by the Transformers the movie. And I've never seen anything like that on a toy package art before. So that alone makes it something that I'm very interested in, and they're very nice figures as well. I think they're cool, but I love the packaging. Remember, like when I was showing you that Boba Fett figure, that I said that I'm a sucker for packaging, and look at this. This is one box where you can see all 5 figures. Very, very clearly. And I'm sure that's something I could pop open easily and display separately if that was something that I wanted to do. So to me, that's something I'm going to try to get if I can. Allegedly, the retail price is $69.99, which is, once you break it down by individual figure, is more than a bargain. But earlier this week, I saw a couple things that kind of made me a little concerned / worried. Anybody that's in, the G.I. Joe fandom, and I guess Transformers fandom to an extent also, what with the debacle that was that whole Gigawatt Back to the Future figure. Basically what's happened is that scalpers have been doing scalping bots and things like that to snap up digital pre-orders before real fans actually get an opportunity to have a chance at them. And I thought like this had already happened. Like, we haven't seen an official announcement saying that the Quintesson Pit of Judgment will be available on the Pulse during PulseCon on September 25th and 26th. I guess I think that's information that's just kind of known within the fandom, I guess. I don't know. But anyway, I saw several eBay listings, for twice to three times the retail price, which is not uncommon for scalpers. I think my dude Dave Cabal paid upwards to like $100 for the Baroness and the Coil Cycle. That's like a $49.99 item, and he paid like $100 for it from a scalper. The things we do to complete our collections, I suppose. But what I found more disturbing than the eBay listings, because oftentimes folks will put up, how do I break it down? Basically, like, scalpers are already set up with shops on eBay saying like, hey man, I got your Quintesson Pit of Judgment, anticipating that, their scalper bots are going to snap up enough copies. But the thing that I found more disturbing than that was that I saw folks that weren't toy reviewers, and I am not going to litigate anything about toy reviewers here. That's a whole nother ball of wax that, quite frankly, at this time of night, I just don't have time to unravel, allegations of theft and where these reviewers actually get their copies and whether that's through legal means. That's a different topic for a different day. But what I was seeing was pictures of folks that I would say are just folks, civilians, normal people, getting in-hand images of the Quintesson Pit of Judgment. And it made me concerned. It's like, oh, they're probably buying these off of eBay, and these are real things that are hitting the market. Did I miss my opportunity? Did this pre-order come and go? Have folks already bought them? That's how much I want this thing. I've been kind of like watching it closely and am very paranoid about missing it. But then I reached out to some of my friends and, made a couple posts in a couple groups on Facebook. And basically what the word on the street is that the ones for in-hand images were for toy shows in either Taiwan or Singapore, somewhere overseas, where these are already available. And presumably that's what the eBay listings were as well, is that they were the ones that were acquired at these overseas toy shows. So that kind of eased my mind a little bit, as well as hearing the news, because I don't think I had heard it at that point, that that the Quintesson Pit of Judgment would officially be available during PulseCon on the 25th and the 26th. So there's that. Like I said, I really wanted to talk about that, because I have not talked about I haven't talked about it on the live stream or on a podcast or really any place else. So I just wanted to touch on that briefly before I got out of here. And the last thing I want to cover is some leaks. And I don't know how you feel about leaks, but we have seen, and I'm just going to bring up Sabertron here. Basically, firsthand look at Studio Series 86 Cup Hot Rod, and another figure from the upcoming Transformers Kingdom line, a new gimmick called Fossilizers, which are going to be very similar to Weaponizers from the Siege line, which is very exciting for folks that are excited about that. Me personally, I am excited for the 1986 Studio Series figures, because much like all of this stuff that I was talking about with regards to the Quintesson Pit of Judgment, I've been waiting since I was 7-8 years old for actual Transformers figures that say somewhere on the packaging Transformers the movie. Now, the Studio Series line is a toy line, kind of like a sub-line of the Transformers Generations main line, where they highlight movie characters. And up until this point, it's been all characters from the live-action movies, the Michael Bay movies. And I don't know if it's next year's 35th anniversary of Transformers the movie that's driving this. It might be the fact that they're running out of characters, though fans of that line and fans of those movies would say that there are tens of characters that they haven't gotten to yet that could get studio series figures before we start doing characters from the 1986 movie. The point being is, like, for the longest time, we even talked about this when Retro Cabal was on my show months ago. We thought we were going to get some more information besides just rumors. There have been rumors that the studio series line was going to include characters from the 1986 movie, and sure enough, we have seen our first leaks of in-hand images. This is old crotchety Autobot Warrior Cup, as portrayed by Lionel Stander in the movie, and I really like this figure, and this kind of gives me what I was imagining in my wildest dreams of what this studio series 1986 line might look like, because I think this is outside of a third-party Fans Toys masterpiece scale figure of Cup. I think this is the character, or I'm sorry, this is the figure that I've seen look the closest to how he does in the movie. Even with, like, you know, the rounded shoulders, rounded arms, and rounded thighs. That's, I mean, again, he looks almost as if he walked right off the screen. I really like the face sculpt as well. You know, kind of shows off his crotchety old man face, which, again, sometimes they get right, other times they don't. I'm just going to skip this guy because, again, I know that my Beast Wars friends are really excited for the figures coming up in the Kingdom line, and I love that you love the fossilizer gimmick. I could care less. So I also want to show off this guy. This is Hot Rod, and the thing that folks have been talking about on Twitter since these pictures have been leaked is that his arms are on backwards. Now, depending upon what you think, me personally, I've gone nuts with this because, ironically enough, his arms being on backwards is more accurate to the movie. And the thing about Hot Rod in Transformers the movie is that he transforms like 4 or 5 times, maybe a half dozen times, and not a damn one of them is the same. One, he's flipping his arms around, other times he's not flipping his arms around. My point being is that these backwards arms suggest that there's a possibility that to transform this figure, you have to flip his arms around like he does in the movie. And as far as I know, there's no Hot Rod figure that's ever done that before. And that's, I think that's pretty cool. And again, it has a very Transformers the movie inspired likeness. Me personally, I would prefer that the dark red is a little more magenta than it is, but I'm not going to complain because I have several miscolored versions of the movie where he is more red than he is magenta. So again, that's a nitpick that and it's a hill that I don't want to die on because I don't care that much. But the thing I need to see now that I've seen some of these figures actually leaked, is I need to see some packaging. I want to see what the Studio Series packaging looks like, because if it's like the Quintesson Pit of Judgment, where it says Transformers the movie on it, that's going to make me very excited. So, let me see, and there it is there. You know, so if it, let me bring up. I'm gonna do some interneting while I have the live stream up. Studio series. Now let me just bring up the packaging here, just so you kind of get a this is kind of a perspective of what we're looking at here. So you can kind of see over here where you've got the character in the box. You've got a representation of the character on the side. Each studio series figure has a number, and then to the right of it, it says what movie it's from. In this case, the Soundwave figure is from Dark of the Moon. Now, what I want as a fan more than anything else is for this little sign on the right-hand side to look like that and have the magenta and orange lettering that says The Transformers, the movie. Now, I'm sure you think I'm insane at this point. But I don't know. It's my favorite movie, and I like talking about it. And yeah, no, I think this is really cool. So I would love to get your thoughts on what you think about 1986 movie characters making their way into the studio series line, because there are purists that says, you know what, get your G1 out of my studio series. You have Siege, you have Earthrise, you have part of Kingdom, Transformers, the Transformers main line is rotten with G1 characters. I don't want no more G1 characters, which is a valid criticism because we haven't really gotten new characters for quite some time. So, and it seems like that in recent years, what the Transformers design team has been doing is just kind of rehashing G1 and kind of doing all those classic characters. For me, Studio Series 1986 is kind of a different animal, no pun intended, in that it gives me something that I never thought I would get. And that something I never thought I would get would be actual Transformers action figures that say Transformers the movie on them. And for me, that's again, that is something that's kind of special and important. And yeah, I'm really excited. I already told Lucky that she might be needing to draft a sternly worded email to John Hasbro, for basically I'm going to go broke buying these figures, because again, if they look like the Cup and Hot Rod that we just saw in the leaks, along with the stuff in the Quintesson Pit of Judgment, I'm going to buy them all. And then I will figure out how to display them, because I can make dedicated shelf space that's just my Transformers the movie shelf. Now, before we close out, I want to remind folks of our Poddex question of the night. Still can't figure out which side is which on the camera. Anyway, our Poddex question of the night is, what is your most treasured possession? And I will answer the question myself. You can answer in the comments later as you watch this video or listen to the podcast. My most treasured possession, and it changes from time to time, but and I've told this story a number of times, so it's not necessarily new, but I have I guess crown jewel centerpiece of my Transformers toy collection is Fortress Maximus. I got him in 1987 for Christmas. I thought he was going to be a Nintendo, and instead I was surprised by getting the largest Transformer ever, which he'll still hold that title until HasLab Unicron comes out next year. And he is so large and so vast that I still have him to this day. He's not quite in mint condition anymore. I've lost parts to him, but he is still imposing and impressive, and it's and I really like him. In fact, I think over the next couple months I'm gonna maybe do some light restoration, see if I can clean him up a little bit. He's very dusty, and a lot of the plastic has yellowed and discolored, and he's fallen into a little bit of disrepair. But even so, it's one of my favorite toys, and it's one of my favorite things. It's one of the things that is most prominently displayed in my studio room in the house. So that's what I'm going to go with. I would love to hear what you think. And again, that is our Poddex question of the week. Mike Seibert Radio is powered by Poddex, and don't forget you can use that promo code MSRP10 at checkout to save 10% off of your first order. And that will wrap things up for this week's episode. Thank you so much for watching and for hanging out and for dealing with the technical difficulties that we had. And again, thanks to Shar and Nick and Jeremy for letting me know that I talked for 20 minutes with with no audio. But again, I'd have done the whole show if you hadn't said anything. So I really appreciate it. And if you want to listen to my podcast, Mike Seibert Radio, subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, Spotify, TuneIn, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And you can check out the full show archive out on SoundCloud. Like, share, rate, and review the show. Let us know what you like and what you'd like to hear more of in the future. Mike Seibert Radio is produced by Dave Sanders and is powered by Poddex. For Mike Seibert Radio, my name is Mike. No live show next week because I will be recording with Rafe Telsch, recording an episode of Have Not Seen This, where we will be talking about Transformers the movie. Look for that in the future. But yeah, I thanks for hanging out, and until next time, wear a mask, wash your hands, and of course, make good choices. Good night.